Welcome to Crocker and Cohn. That's Croc. I'm Cohn. Last week, there wasn't a lot to talk about. Now, it is a content creator's dream. I really want to say thank you, Deebo Samuel. I really want to say, giving us something to talk about at least. This all could be nothing. And you could say with the 49ers long term, but it's good drama.
It is definitely something. And we
It's
talked about
definitely
this, right?
something.
Our conversation last time we talked about Deebo was he had scrubbed his account. And then we're like, well, if he deletes the picture, then we'll be coming back on here to talk about it. And
Boom.
he wiped out everything.
He wiped out everything. So I think I want to talk about like how this started. To me, now that we're putting like the pieces together, the night that he took his pictures down was the night that he went out to dinner with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And at the time, Niner fans were like, well, that means that's good. That's a good sign. Clearly not. Clearly something happened at that dinner that caused Deebo Samuel to take down his pictures and privately request a trade. We'll never know what was said. What do you think might have been said at that dinner?
He didn't hear what he wanted to hear from like the long-term expectations for him, right? And what he wanted as it pertains to money, his usage, and all those things. I think they view him, and they probably were upfront. Here's one thing about Kyle and John Lynch that I've at least recognized. They keep it pretty real. They want you to know exactly where you stand with them, where you are. Like, hey, these are areas you need to improve on. This is the situation. And at that time, the situation is maybe, hey, we feel you're better and more value to us in this role. Unfortunately, that role isn't something that is sustainable for a long time. So we don't want to give you as much money guaranteed as you want. Deebo didn't like that.
Right. Guaranteed money. That was probably it. And so when he says, never got an offer, the contract, I mean, and when the Niners say, well, we never even had negotiations, it seems like whatever happened in this conversation, it was unofficial, but the Niners made their stance clear. We're going to pay you like a wide back, not like an all-pro wide receiver. And I think Deebo Samuel probably lost it. I mean, I think I probably would lose it in his situation too. And you know, if he had his agent's blessing, like, hey, go scorched earth, burn the bridge, let's get you out of San Francisco, then I mean, what did he do that was wrong?
Well, I think, you look at that situation as a whole. If I'm Deebo Samuel, I'm like, dude, I carried this offense down the stretch. I was everything. And when you needed anything, I was the guy that put the team on my back. Offense was stagnant. All right, put me at kickoff return. I'll return it to midfield in the playoff game in the freezing cold. All right, 3rd and 7 with a minute left and we need to close out this game. And we're not throwing the ball with Jimmy Garoppolo. No, you're handing the ball off to me and I get the first down. I'm limping off the field. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me? I would probably be a little insulted.
Yeah, because it's like they used his sacrifice against him. The way I look at it is like a lot of people say he's better as a running back than he is as a wide receiver. I mean, really? He was on pace. He had 1,000 yards in 8 games. He went to running back because the Niners are such a bad passing team. The quarterback's not good. The pass protection isn't good. And on top of that, Raheem Mostert was out. And so the Niners they needed Deebo to do this. And it just so happens that he could do it really well because he's a great football. He's also a great kick returner, as you pointed out. But it's like saying, well, you're actually a special teamer, so we're not going to pay you as an all-pro wide. He can do it. He did it for you. It was a sacrifice. He understood that he'd be taking more hits than he needed to take. And then at the end of it, to use it against him and be like, well, actually, this is gonna take away from your longevity. Well, why am I doing it in the first place then? I wasn't drafted to do this. It's your fault that I'm doing this. And now you're going to use it against me in negotiations. I'd be pissed too, man. I'd be mad.
I made this analogy on my show. So there's some people in here listening that just came straight over to hear. Thank you for supporting. But the analogy I made with receivers is they are all fruit, right? Candy is bad for you. Fruit, much better. Fruit also has its sugars and things in it, but fruit, you're good eating some fruit a day. Now, all fruit aren't the same, but you're still getting your fruit in you. So when you look at, let's say, not AJ Brown, let's say Justin Jefferson, let's say Stephon Diggs, those guys, let's say they're like they're grapes or they're a banana or something like that. Okay. And then you have a guy like Deebo Samuel, who he might be an apple.
Okay.
And let's say AJ Brown, he's an apple. Those two guys, their play styles are very similar. Mm-hmm. Very similar. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, Deebo Samuel, you've seen more of the usage as a running back, but those guys are very similar in how they win. Have we ever seen any clips of AJ Brown just whooping guys with his route running ability? No, you see him get inside leverage, break his route off, catch the ball, run after catch. A lot of what Deebo Samuel do. So those guys, to me, they're both apples. Now, maybe one is an apple, one's a red apple, one's a green apple, but they're both apples, right?
Okay.
Their play style is similar. It doesn't matter what type of fruit they are. At the end of the day, they're all fruits. They're all receivers, and they just win different ways.
Right.
And you might prefer the grape over the apple, but at the end of the day, you're getting fruit, and they're all productive. So that's kind of the analogy I use for those guys. You could say Deebo is not a pure receiver, but he wins. He wins the way he wins, and he wins the same way out as a receiver as A.J. Brown, and nobody talks about A.J. Brown as a pure receiver.
Good point. Juan, thanks for becoming a member. Jason, I blame Jimmy for this entire situation. Just leave. He wants to go. He said goodbye to the media. I don't blame Jimmy on this one. I mean, I think he thought, I guess you could blame him for having the shoulder surgery when he did. I think he thought he'd get cut. He guessed wrong.
I don't blame Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy, that the whole situation, I don't think that has anything to do. I don't want to say he doesn't, but because maybe Deebo just loves Jimmy Garoppolo. But in the sense of as far as if it's just about a contract, which they said is not solely about a contract, but if it is about a contract, that part doesn't have anything to do with Jimmy.
Juan says loyalty doesn't always work both ways. That's cryptic. What are you talking about? But I guess so.
That's some Deebo Samuel cryptic stuff right there.
Maybe he's not talking about football. Hater Vader says, Deebo, pay me like I play 3 positions. Pay me like 10 players. I will only play 1 position. See, to me, I don't know about that because that like when Ian Rappaport said it was about his usage, that to me is the 49ers say, hey, here's the reason why Deebo doesn't want to play for us. Like, we haven't heard that from Deebo. I'd like to hear it from Deebo.
I mean, there were the other reports that he wants to be utilized more as a regular receiver in the sense of running routes and stuff, as opposed to a wide back. But he's been promoting the wide back T-shirts and all that stuff he's selling. He talked about the Pro Bowl. Hey, we create a new position, and I said it then. You might want to stop saying that because that can kind of hurt you when contract negotiations start, and it seems like that's what's happening.
Okay, Eric, could this mess have been avoided, or was this inevitable?
I think yes, it could have been avoided, but at the end of the day, contract negotiations get ugly. Mm-hmm. You have to wait things out, and sometimes it's a little bit less than ideal, but you want to come to some kind of common goal. The 49ers, though, they seem like, I want to say no-nonsense type guys, but we saw the situation with DeForest Buckner. Buckner, he just came back this year, I think, when they played against the 49ers and talked about it. Like, they didn't even try to meet me in the middle. They had their number, we had our number, and I didn't want their number. And they're like, all right, well, go seek a trade.
Yep.
And so if they're doing business like that, I think it's a little bit harder to avoid it.
Right. I mean, it could have been avoided if they would do business differently. It seems like what they do is they come in with a real low ball offer at first. And it's not official, but they come in real low at first. And if you're a player like Kittle, Armstead, Jimmy Ward, you don't have a lot of recourse. You sweat it out and you finish the negotiation over time. But with these players like Buckner and Deebo, who are really among the best of the best, they don't necessarily have to put up with that. You know what I mean? If they feel like the initial low ball offer is insulting. Now, I'm not saying Buckner reacted that way, but I feel like you can't necessarily do business with the top best players in the league like that. You kind of have to cater to them a little bit more. Am I wrong?
I mean, it depends on the person. It depends on his personality, and Deebo is a little bit more, you got to know who you're dealing with, right? George Kittle doesn't come off to me as emotional in the sense of like how you talk to him.
I agree.
Right? He's on the field. He's talking to guys. He tries to shake Stephon Gilmore's hand before a route.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man?
He's goofy.
Stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So you probably say something to him, and he's just like, all right, whatever. And he might, hey, talk to my agent about it.
Right.
Deebo, to me, comes off as a little more emotional from that standpoint.
I totally agree.
Not saying he's not tough. Clearly, he's a tough guy, but just in the sense of
passionate.
Passionate. I think he wears his feelings on the sleeves a little bit. He
cried at the championship game. He was totally emotionally invested. It's part of what makes him great.
You could probably hurt his feelings.
Yes.
A little more than you could maybe George Kittle in contract negotiations, to where he would react by scrubbing his accounts and not wanting anything to do with the thing, and then come out and say, well, I'm getting death threats, and I don't care. Y'all not getting to me, but you cared enough to post a video about it. So it's just. I think he's just a little bit more emotional from in that sense.
I think what like the old school Niners would have done, Eddie DeBartolo, Carmen Policy. Carmen Policy was the Parag before Parag, and he was Italian. I'm Italian. He was Italian. They used to do it differently. I mean, I'm thinking Carmen would have made Deebo feel like, man, you're a made man. You're in the family. We love you. Okay. And that's not what Parag does. Parag comes in and he's like, you're not as good as you think you are. Let me take you down a peg. Let me win this contract negotiation. Before the Niners put the screws to Deebo in the contract negotiation, I think Carmen and the old school bunch made him feel like, you're one of us. We love you. And I think that's what Deebo needed. Just some recognition that he made a sacrifice and the 49ers would take care of him on the back end. And they didn't. They're like, oh, thank you very much. Psych, we're using it against you. Now you're worth less. You're not really a wide receiver. That's messed up. To me, that's that. I mean, if I were Deebo, I'd think, where's the lawyer? How can I ever trust this organization again? Right? You got some people saying they love me, some people saying I'm only this. Hard to do business with an organization like that.
And from all reports, I mean, even from him talking, he and Kyle Shanahan have a very open relationship where they talk and communicate all the time about anything and everything. So how do you go from that to being upset after a conversation? Maybe he felt, and again, now this is speculation, but he could feel a little slighted by or backstabbed by Kyle Shanahan. Like there could be that where it's like, man, you're supposed to look out for me in these negotiations.
Right. And like, I think Deebo probably figured out like, hey man, because I don't think he realized until recently that this whole wide back thing would cost him money. I think he really thought, I'm going to make more money. Versatility is good. I'm showing all the things I can do. And now he's finally realized like, wow, I'm going to get screwed for this. And I think he probably talked to John and Kyle was like, look, if this is going to be held against me financially, I'm not going to do it anymore. And I don't think they could handle that. John and Kyle, they're like, look, you're going to have to play. That's part of the deal here. And I think that's the issue. So maybe, I don't know if they could fix it. If they could just say, look, fine. Here's all the guaranteed money you want, whatever. We'll use you. Are they going to do that? I don't see it. Maybe. I doubt it. Loyalty, as in he did his best. Niners don't want to pay. It's true. I mean, where's the loyalty on the Niners part? Deebo never complained. How many players would just switch to running back midseason? I don't know.
I mean, he was excelling at it. He scored 8 rushing touchdowns on the season, and it's like, man, I am having a certain level of success, but
yes,
to use that against him, and as they should. Like if I'm negotiating his contract for the 49ers, I would say, hey, we use you at this running back position. Running backs don't last as long, but we think that's
right.
where you're best at being utilized in all aspects of a game. So we just got to pay you less for it, though. I mean, I would come at them. I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but that's how I would come at them too.
That's how it works too. It's like, what could they have possibly said to Deebo to not hurt his feelings? This is how negotiation. They come in low, you come in high, you work to the middle. Schefter saying Deebo could be homesick. All right, let's talk about that in a second. Yeah, let's talk about that right now. So there's a theory going around. Adam Schefter said it this morning that one reason Deebo Samuel doesn't want to play for the 49ers anymore is he doesn't want to live on the West Coast, doesn't want to play in California. What do you think about this report or this theory? It's more of a theory.
I heard Adam Schefter talk about it this morning, and I feel like Adam Schefter, regardless of what anyone says, he's saying stuff that he's hearing.
Yes, that's true.
So so there's that aspect of it, but there is something to wanting to be closer to home. I've been in those situations, obviously, much smaller scale, right? But I had opportunities where I played. I went to college in Arkansas. I live in Arkansas now, but I went to college here. I'm from Stockton, California.
Yeah,
I want to be home. I want to be close to home. Mm-hmm. And the moment I had an opportunity to be close to home, play for San Jose SaberCats. Boom. See that when? Hold on, I bring up my ring a little bit. Won a championship with them.
Yeah. Right?
But the moment I got a chance to play home, it's like, man, I'm to the crib.
Yeah.
And if I'm Deebo Samuel, I could see that newborn child. I don't know where his child is. Somebody said Florida or Miami or something like that. If his child is there, I could see him wanting to be closer to home more, full time as opposed to being somewhere else. And if you have the leverage, which clearly in the situation he doesn't have necessarily the leverage, he could just tell him he's not happy about it. But if you have the ability to say, hey, I want to be closer to home, I get it. I understand that.
It makes sense, but to me, I don't buy it because
I don't buy it either.
Yeah,
and most guys have an off-season home anyways. Like George Kittle, I bet he's not in California.
He's in Nashville.
So most
Yeah.
guys, once the season ends, they go to the crib anyways. Most guys during bye week, they go to the crib anyways. Most guys during any time of breaks or whatever, they fly home. Most guys, if they play a Thursday night game, Friday they're on a flight to wherever their home is. So guys go back and forth like that. But maybe he doesn't want it to be as difficult as that.
Well, let's go back to what you said at the beginning. If Schefter said something, he heard it. I agree. Where did he hear it from? Is this from the Niners or from Deebo? Who does this information suit? To me, it makes the Niners look good. What are the Niners trying to do? They're trying to protect themselves. Yo, we didn't mess up. Deebo doesn't like playing running back. Whoa. Deebo just doesn't like California. It's not us. We're going to pay him. It's like, it's about money. If you were going to give him all the guaranteed money that he would have wanted, he would have ran for mayor of San Jose. He would love California. As soon as you lowball him, there's 800 reasons for him to leave. And one of them might be taxes. One of them might be, all of a sudden you start putting the list together in your mind. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like your offer. I don't like your face. I don't like your breath. You know what I'm saying? If you were offering him $80 million guaranteed, it'd be no problem. That's the way I look at it. So like, it might be California, but that's what the Niners are going to sell. We didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't like democratic policies. Like, okay, all right, fine. Sure.
Yeah, like, he don't care about none of that.
If you gave him enough money, he could afford it.
Right.
Bosa doesn't like, apparently he doesn't like, the West Coast. And
he's not a blue state type guy.
But if you pay him the right amount, neither is his brother, but his brother's gonna put roots in freaking LA. Nick Bosa could put roots out here if you pay them right. Anyway, I don't like how the Niners are kind of trying to spin this in the background. Just either give Deebo Samuel his money or trade him. Don't try to say how like you were gonna do the right thing. And basically what they're trying to make Deebo seem like is totally irrational. Hey, we're gonna give him his money, but he just doesn't like California. I don't know. What can you say to that? What do you say to someone who doesn't like it? It's like, you sure?
The initial reports were that the money situation is very simple, and Deebo's holding it all up.
I don't buy it. I just don't buy it.
We know who that's coming from.
Thank you. David Sanchez says, if we trade Deebo Samuel for picks, we should try to get a protected first from a bad team. In theory, we could have a top 3 future first for Deebo, who was a second. Interesting. Get a pick next year that could become a top 5 pick as opposed to trying to get picks this year. I don't know, man. If they don't get an immediate return for Deebo, a lot of people are going to cancel their season tickets, dude. This team could be bad without Deebo, is my fear.
Not as dangerous, that's for sure, and not as scary. You'd have to hope that Ayuk takes that next step. Yep. And it sounds like he's doing everything in his power to do so. And I'm big on that. I tell my wife all the time, control what you can control. We're not going to stress over anything outside of that. Let's control what we can control. And Ayuk, hey, I can't control what's going on with Deebo Samuel, but you know what? I can put in this work with the guy that's going to be the quarterback long term. Let me get on the same page with him. Let me go out there, put my best foot forward so I can be the best I can be this season. And hell, maybe I end up having a 1,400-yard season. So, and then people, I don't want to say forget about Deebo, but it's like, oh, well, okay, maybe we're not missing out as much, but that's tough. What I wouldn't do, though, is the mistake they did before, which is thinking that I'm going to trade, let's say, hypothetically speaking, the Jets be like, all right, you can take number 10. And it's like, all right, I'm going to take number 10. I'm just going to draft a receiver. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Put your faith in Ayuk that he's going to take the next step. Draft a receiver a little bit later, but to where there's not as much pressure and there's not as much of that connection like they did with Buckner and Kinlaw. Because there's no other way to look at the Buckner Kinlaw situation as a failure because Kinlaw isn't Buckner. And most guys aren't going to be Buckner. So you just screwed up from the jump, putting that type of expectations on them. That pick was set up to fail when they made the pick. Don't do that. Draft a guy second round, third round, whatever. But Ayuk, we are believing in you. Just as they should have believed in Armstead to be able to move to 3-tech, and they didn't do it.
They're not going to do it. They're going to draft a wide receiver. They're going to trade Deebo for that, and they're going to take a wide receiver in the first round. And just like Kinlaw, he's going to have a messed up knee. His name's going to be Jamison Williams. They're going to have to redshirt for him. He's a good player, right? He's a good player, right? He's a good player, right?
When you're the 49ers and your history of taking guys with injuries and like Kinlaw, I hope he just goes somewhere where they don't have an injury history, so it won't even be in your head. Because if you go to 49ers,
they're going to do it, man. I bet you. Okay, hold on. What I want to say with Ayuk, before we knew that Deebo had made his request, but this is after he had made his request. The Niners had their local pro day. Ayuk was there. I was there. And Ayuk was just chilling, watching with And I was waiting because I wanted to talk to Ayuk for a minute about something private just between me and him. And I was waiting. And all of a sudden, I heard a PR guy go over to Ayuk and say, "Hey, coach wants to talk to you guys." And it was Kinlaw and Ayuk. So they walk over, and Ayuk spends about 15 minutes talking to Kyle. Kinlaw spends about 15 minutes talking to Lynch. And it was like, it was right in front of the press. You know, it was definitely meant to be seen. And Ayuk and Kyle talked at length, like with their arms, like they were having a very in-depth conversation. I have no idea what they were talking about. Afterward, I asked Brent, I said, "Hey, what are you and Kyle talking about?" And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I don't know. It just seemed like, man, what could they have been saying, knowing that Deebo had already put in his trade request? Hey,
right.
man,
And now we know
offense this year.
reports have come out that it was over a week ago that he initially requested a trade.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, man, it's going to be your offense this year.
This isn't one of the questions, but I want to ask you, do you believe they'll trade Deebo Samuel? Because right now they're saying, well, we don't want to trade him, and the asking price, if you want him, it's sky high. So do they actually end up being able to move him?
Let's talk about the consequences of if they don't trade Deebo Samuel. Because I've seen a lot of people say, Niners have leverage. I thought that first. Niners have leverage here. He's under contract. They can franchise tag him. They can really, break his balls. Well, here's here's what's complicated about that. His agents are Tory Dandy and Jimmy Sexton, CAA. You know about the agency. This is like the most powerful agency. They have clients in Hollywood. They're very big and very powerful. And if the Niners do this to one of their top clients, we're not going to trade you. You have to stay here, and we're going to franchise tag him. Well, now CAA may tell their clients, don't sign with the 49ers. That's a terrible organization. They will not do right by. We recommend, we're not going to do business. All of us, do you really want to put a wedge between you and CAA? They have a lot of the best players. So I feel like his agency has some power here, and I don't think the Niners necessarily want to go to war with the top agency in football.
And I think that's where it's at as it pertains to the leverage. Because again, does Deebo have leverage in the sense of he can force whatever he wants? No. 49ers have the power because of the way things are structured right now with the CBA. You cannot hold out. No. But there is leverage just in the sense of your best player on offense, him and Trent Williams, but your best young player on offense does not want to play for you. And I think just that in general, again, you can hold him against his will, but who wants to really do that? Yeah. So, who wants to go through a season with a guy that is disgruntled? Yeah. And maybe Deebo is just a great person and he can overlook it. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo go through a season like that. I don't take Deebo and Jimmy as the same person.
No, Jimmy never requested a trade. Yeah. Jimmy still hasn't requested a trade. I just don't think that I don't.
He didn't originally. Remember, originally he talked about like Jimmy when he heard it, he was upset. Yes, but it's like, okay, I'm upset. Whatever. I talked to him about it. We're gonna push through it, and I think he did the best that he could do considering the situation that was very weird. I don't know if Deebo would handle it as well as Jimmy did.
Probably not. It's interesting. There's reports now that the Niners have no intention of trading Deebo Samuel. That doesn't mean they won't. That's kind of like, hey, it's really going to take a good offer. I feel like what the Niners right now are doing is asking for 2 first-round picks for Deebo, knowing that they'll probably settle for 1. And that's just where they are. I have a feeling they're going to trade Deebo. I don't think they want a disgruntled star in their locker room. I don't think they want to be seen as an anti-player organization. I think they want to be seen as, hey, we tried. We like Deebo. Deebo has some weird reasons that he doesn't want to be. He's like California. He doesn't like playing running back. It's not up to us. As soon as he made the request, we tried our best to get a deal done and get the best deal possible. So this is Deebo's fault. We want him to be here as Deebo's. We're gonna honor his request because we're pro player, just like we traded Buckner. That's how I think they're gonna spend it that way.
What do you think about this trade? And let me know if you do it. Someone earlier talked about a future pick, but say New York Jets. They're not. I know they have pick 4 and pick 10, and everybody wants those. But what about right? And that's not what they offered for Tyreek Hill. They offered pick 35, 38, and 69.
69, yeah.
So what about if they offered 35, 38, and a future first?
That's interesting again because the Jets might be terrible next year.
Right. So you might have a top 10 pick, which you don't even have a pick. And that would be the last year that the whole, first round thing with Lance runs out. But, you still have multiple picks. Now you're picking at 35, 38, 61, and 69. I feel like that you can get kind of a good little haul there of guys that can contribute.
I just think what the Niners are thinking, like, what can we sell to our fan base so they don't revolt? Because it's going to be a tough sell. We traded Deebo. And I think they're going to have at least one first-round pick in that package. If it's just 2 seconds, Niner fans are going to lose their mind.
Do they have to sell it to the fan base, though, when he has come out and he requested a trade? See, like, the Buckner, you kind of got to say, it's like, what? You traded DeForest Buckner? Deebo has come out and said, I don't want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how hard is like, hey, we had to. And I think the fans, all we can do is respect it.
Yeah, it's true. And the Niners are doing a very good job of making it seem like, hey, it's so not our fault. We would pay him what he wants. He just doesn't like this and that. He's arbitrary. It's like there's no talking to this guy. I don't buy it. I really want to hear Deebo's side of the story. Matthew says, if it's all business, why didn't Deebo's agent sit him down during the running back stuff and intervene? Should have known this was coming. This isn't new stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, but again, he maybe trusted them a little bit throughout that situation. All right, Kyle wants me to do this.
I trust Kyle.
We're winning with it. We're balling. We're doing our thing. We're pushing towards the playoffs. He put the team first, and you got to respect Deebo Samuel for that. But again, if it got sour, which it sounds like it has, the team didn't put him first.
Right. And again, I think when you're a third-year player on your rookie deal, you don't really have a lot of leverage to say, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do this. Like, you're this close to getting the bag, as it were. You're going to do whatever the coach is saying. Yes. Yes. And then you think they're going to reward you. And then you realize that the world is not a fair place. That's what Deebo just realized. I tried to tell him, man. I was like, dude, the Niners are not fair. The world is not fair. You're going to learn. And he's like, what are you talking about? Well, I'm still waiting on my apology, man. That was whack. Blocking me. Little Rumble 24 says Deebo plus 61 for Chase Young and Scary Terry. Oh.
Chase Deebo. Young is coming off of an ACL injury.
Man, it's true.
I mean, one, Deebo plus 61. Chase was the #1 overall pick. Yeah. And to pair him on the opposite of Bosa, they're going to want more for that.
I would think so.
Just if you were to say, all right, we want to trade Deebo for Chase Young, straight up. Mm-hmm. They're going to want Deebo plus something else. And so now you throw in Scary Terry, who is 1,000+ yard receiver. It's not going to take just Deebo and pick 61.
What about Deebo for Scary Terry and a pick?
Now, yeah, that might work.
I'd be more interested in that than trading Deebo for just picks and hoping that one of because like wide receivers bust all the time.
But even then, you still got to pay Scary Terry. So I'm not trading for Scary Terry when I have Ayuk, and if I do trade Deebo, then I have the opportunity to get that type of production out of Brandon Ayuk.
Ethan says they stopped using him as a wide receiver right before 1K yards. Yeah, you could argue the Niners like, man, this guy is going to get 2,000 yards receiving, and he's going to be. Do you understand how expensive Deebo Samuel's going to be? Let's play him running back. No, I mean, they needed to win games, and it was how they won games last year. They were 3-5 with him playing primarily wide receiver, and that's not his fault. That's their fault. That's just how they're built. Like, they're literally not built to pass the ball. Niner Nation 85 says, I think the Niners should give Samuel a $50 million guarantee with the possibility to get more from a rushing yard incentive. Let him bet on himself. Yeah, but I think we're a little bit past that.
Well, I think the Niners should give Samuel a $50 million guarantee with the possibility to get more. Why? Now, if I'm Deebo, I just saw Diggs and these guys get $70 million guaranteed. Why would I take anything less guaranteed than what they were? Especially if you're planning on using. Matter of fact, if you are planning to use me as running back, I want more security. I want $75 million guaranteed.
That's right. That's a good point. And the thing, it's not just what Deebo wants; it's what his agent wants. His agent does not fuck around. Okay, he just made Denzel Ward the highest paid corner ever, right? Something like that in the league. Yeah. He's not messing around. Like, Torrey Danny isn't in this to be like, I got you a decent contract, Deebo. Good job. Like, he wants to get the best contract for him and AJ Brown, and that's just the way it is. He has a heavy duty agent.
Denzel Ward got $30 million more guaranteed than J.C. Jackson. And J.C. Jackson was on the open market. You're supposed to crush it on the open market. People are supposed to overpay. I get it. You want to be a California, whatever. But $30 million more guaranteed, that shows like his agent, he ain't playing around.
And I think the issue here with the Niners is the guaranteed money. Like, Tyreek Hill is averaging $30 million a year because his last year of his contract, which doesn't count as $45 million. It's the guarantees that matter. And I think everyone's saying like the Jimmy Garoppolo situation has nothing to do with the Deebo situation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if the Niners give Deebo Samuel like a big signing bonus this offseason, doesn't that get prorated, averaged out for the length of the contract? And wouldn't that affect his cap number this year? A signing bonus? Am I wrong? Or that
Oh yeah, I don't know how that. I got to get a PFF draft.
We got to find the answer to that, because if a signing bonus would raise his cap number this year, then Jimmy Garoppolo being on the team definitely does affect this. Just saying.
Right.
D Wood 7300 says, I think Niners started low, believing the negotiations would start. If the money was right from the start, he would sacrifice further. He's 26. There's nothing for him in the Bay Area, Miami, LA, Las Vegas. Yeah, I guess the Niners thought that that Deebo would actually sit through with painful negotiation. He was like, nope, I don't want to do that. I don't do that.
Again, I mean, but again, I think most people thinking logically would, if we're just negotiating, okay, whatever. I feel like there was something that like insulted Deebo.
Yeah, I would think so. Chase says Deebo said with Matt Mayoko he won't train with Lance unless he comes to Miami. He won't train in California. Did he? Is that today? I missed that.
Yeah, no. He didn't say it today. He said it like a while back. He said it on like Mayoko's show or whatever. Sitting down with Mayoko, like it's like an actual audio of it.
He's like, I'm not training in California. Not happening.
Well, Mayoko kind of worded like, hey, you're going to work with Trey Lance this offseason. He was like, no. Nah. I told him if he wants to come work with me, if he can come to Miami, but he said, I'm not training in California. And he was like, oh, okay. You can tell I got a little awkward. He's like, so are you going to train in California at all? It was something along those lines. He's like, I'm not training in California.
Wow.
I train in Miami. That's where I do my offseason every year or whatever he said.
Maybe.
But yeah, he ain't training in Cali. So when you see all the other receivers working with Trey Lance in California, there's no Deebo. It's like, nah, I'm doing my stuff in Miami.
Look, Miami's cool, but I don't understand liking Miami better than California. I'm just a California guy. Miami's cool though, but like, really, you don't like California at all? I don't understand that.
My thing is, you can't, and I fly around a lot, right? Like I travel damn near every other weekend.
Okay.
And you can fly in for 3 days, and just, if you are the leader of the group, which he is, he's the big dog. He's the guy. Yeah, all right. Hey, I won't be out there all off season or anything like that, but on April 10th, before, I'll come out there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll get work in, and then I'll head back to Miami for the rest of the time before OTAs. And there just wasn't none of that. Now, the only thing, again, I would say the contract stuff, but he said this before any contract negotiations, because there could have been like, hey, from his agent, hey, you don't do anything with 49ers or anything like that. But he said this like during the Super Bowl week.
Right.
So there wasn't even the contract negotiation stuff yet. It was just, I'm not going and training in California.
I mean, does this lend credence to the theory that he wants to leave simply because he wants to play closer to home? I mean, it might.
It could be.
Eventually, hopefully, Deebo Samuel or his brother, one of the two, will come out and say what's going on. Because I feel like his brother fucked up. His brother spilled the beans and is the reason we're having all these conversations. This would have been a private matter. They either would have traded him or they would have worked it out behind closed doors. But Deebo Samuel's brother started making comments on Facebook. That was days ago. Someone finally found it, and then boom, the floodgates open. So thank you, Deebo's brother.
And people tried to like discredit it, and I'm like, listen, I know my brothers and my best friend Donald or my big brother, we talk about everything. So if one of them come out and say something, whether I want it out there or not, like we had that conversation.
Yeah. Now,
hey, it's not for you to say it and post that on social media, but I knew once he said it, I'm like, this is happening.
What would it take? Damian wants to know, what would it take to get Jonathan Taylor from the Colts? Deebo?
I mean, what it take to get Clinton Portis from the Broncos? Like Champ Bailey, one of the best corners in the NFL. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So I would think maybe Deebo. And I think maybe you probably wouldn't want to trade Deebo for a running back. I'd trade him for a wide receiver. But Jonathan Taylor is the best running back. He might be one of them. Leo says, hot take, Kinlaw didn't finish Senior Bowl practice, didn't play in the Super Bowl game, had issues in college. He should have never been drafted. Is that a hot take? I mean, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you were on it. Me, you know me. I try to view from the players and things like that. But you were on that the whole time where you're like, hey, guy got one knee.
Yeah, one knee.
You know?
The Niners shouldn't be doing this. And if they do that with Jameson Williams, I'm gonna have to wonder too. Although I like Jameson Williams, he's great, he's explosive, really good. But at a certain point, when do you stop betting on people with one knee? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
There are guys out there that's healthy with two knees. Like,
I know, and like guys do it, like tear their ACL and come back. Cooper Kupp did it, but like those are professionals at the top of their craft. Like you're betting on amateurs who have torn their ACL. Like they haven't even anyway.
Yeah, young. You don't know their
really
habits of how they're going to prepare. Like I think when Bosa tore his ACL, like I wasn't worried about him coming back and still being a good football player. As opposed
he's like
to
sort of been a professional football player since he was 14.
Right.
And
as opposed to some other people that might not be as mature about the situation.
True. That's a good point. Raheem says, is it crazy to think the Deebo situation has more to do with what they are offering Bosa versus him and him feeling he is more valuable and important to the team than Bosa? I mean, any theory works at this point. It's interesting. Either that or he doesn't like paying for plastic bags in California. Paper bags.
I mean, I think the Bosa thing, and we are talking about all this, nobody's talking about that. Right. And there could be something along the lines of, we need money for Bosa because he's going to demand even more money than Deebo. So Deebo, we can only give you 50 million guaranteed or whatever. Right. I don't know how that, it's like maybe their hands are kind of tied. We already made Trent Williams highest paid tackle. We already made Fred Warner highest paid linebacker. We already made George Kittle highest paid tight end.
And we're going to make both of the highest paid defensive linemen.
And he will be the highest paid defensive player. Yeah. So maybe this is all we can do. And he's like, well, F you did. I don't, again, that's more speculation, but I'm just trying to look at it from, trying to make sense of this situation.
Yeah. And if I were Bosa, I would have the ego, the pride, the belief that I was more valuable than Bosa. And I would be like, why are you going to give him more than me? Why?
Right.
Why? I don't get that. I'm just saying I would feel that way. Steven says, what kills me about the Niners front office is everything is a mystery. They're never honest with fans and we're always left guessing.
I feel like they're more honest than people. And I saw somebody in the chat, like Croc be caping for the organization. I feel like they are a little bit more open and honest. I almost feel like sometimes I'm like, John Lynch, shut up. You don't have to say anything.
Right.
Or Kyle, like, he's up for like, yeah, man, hell, yeah, we would have traded Jimmy Garoppolo, but he got hurt. So now we have to have him. And it's what the situation is. But, that's why we like Trey Lance. That's why we're trying to move on from him. It's like, he's still on the roster. And you're talking about how you just were trying to get rid of him. I feel like they are a little bit more open than people can give them credit for.
They definitely want to seem like one of the more transparent teams in the league. But at the same time, I feel like they're so concerned about controlling the narrative that I don't really believe them a lot of times when they talk. And I know you're not supposed to like say, hey, he's lying. So I'm just like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So I can't wait to hear what John Lynch says next week because I feel like in a very polite way, he's going to blame Deebo Samuel for everything. Look, we love Deebo. We love Deebo. But for whatever reason, Deebo doesn't want to be here. What can we do? It's like, really? You don't know why? You're just going to play dumb and be like Deebo's temperamental, Deebo's dramatic. I mean, that's what the implication is going to be. He has some unknown reason, doesn't want to be here, and he's not entering negotiations in good faith. Really, John? Or did you lowball him? Tell us the truth. Tell us the truth.
Yeah. Now, he might not be transparent with that.
No, I don't think so. Bay Area Niners says theory he wants $20 million as a wide receiver plus $10 million as a running back, $30 million wide back. Niners says we can't obviously do that. Deebo says, okay, fine, $25 million. They'll use me as a wide receiver. Your guess is as good as mine, man. I like it, though. Justin says front office misjudged his personality. Way too Old Testament kind of a guy to be disrespected or taken advantage of. Do him right. He will also. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. He feels betrayed. I think it's a little bit of like a loyalty and betrayal thing going on here. All right, let's get back to our show. Eric, why did the 49ers not want this trade request to go public? I mean, they kept this under wraps until Deebo's brother spilled the beans on Facebook, and then the floodgates opened. Why was it important for them to keep this private?
Because they don't want to trade him.
Yeah.
I think it's simple as that.
So they can fix it, right?
Yeah, it's like we have time. I think the fact that it did come out is perfect, though, because you have a week before the draft to figure this out. Can you make this work? Right now, you need to both be sitting there and trying to hammer something out. And if you can't get anything, you can't make any movement by the draft, you need to trade him.
I would agree. I think you need to do it. Also, I think one of the reasons they didn't want this to be public is because it lowers his value a little bit. It takes away the Niners' leverage. Like teams are like, oh, well, you got to trade him. I feel like it almost, I don't know.
Well, that's why they're saying, but then they come back and say, we don't want to trade him.
We're not going to.
So there could be a scenario where maybe they do want to trade him, but it's like, well, we want to make sure that we get the most out of it. And if we're going to do that, then yeah, you're going to have to give us everything They don't want to trade him. Which why would you want to? They want to make it work. They just don't want to pay him as much.
What concerns me is that the Niners are going to do with Deebo what they did with Jimmy and essentially hold on to him too long. We don't want to trade him. Okay. Now his value just went down. Now he just, he refused to play running back. He didn't have as good of a season. He wasn't emotionally locked in. I mean, he cost himself money, but he cost you value. You can't trade him. Now he's going to leave. Now you don't even want to franchise tag him. I'm afraid the Niners are going to do that. Because if they trade him now, they could get what? A first and a second, maybe? If you hold on, you hold on. I mean, things could get weird. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, that's another thing. Ricky Miranda says, remember a couple of years ago when Mostert wanted to trade but then got paid, even though it's also Robbie Gould. He requested a trade and got paid, even though it's more grave. I think the situation will play out somewhat similar. Possible. It's possible.
The difference is, and again, I can't see it playing out for the better. They just got to figure it out. But you are still dealing with different personalities. And that's the part that is kind of hard to know exactly how that's going to play out.
The one thing that I think gives Niner fans hope is the fact that Deebo tweeted yesterday, the only people who know, he said, like, reporters just want stories or whatever. Like, he didn't talk directly to Jeff Darlington. But then he said,
that's my thing.
What?
Like, so in Jeff Darlington, like, he was very specific with his wording. I just spoke to Deebo Samuel, not Deebo Samuel's agent, not his mom, not his brother, not a source. Yeah. I just spoke to Deebo Samuel. He told me
he wants to trade.
So
now it's possible. Now, if I remember correctly, Jeff Darlington didn't put a motive on Deebo. He didn't say why. Ian Rappaport said why. Ian Rappaport was the one that said it's a usage issue. And to me, that's the 49ers. So maybe what Deebo was saying is, hey, wait a second. I didn't say anything about usage. The only people who know why I want this trade are me, my agent, and the 49ers. But I feel like by tweeting that, he kind of left the door open that, like, maybe I could take it back because the trade request hasn't come out of his mouth yet. I don't know. Right. I don't know. Maybe not. Justin says, when will Deebo step in over his agent in contract negotiations? I don't think that's going to happen. I think people like Tory Dandy. I think he does a good job. I mean, he just got Denzel Ward paid. Why would you not want to work with? I would want to work with him. That's my guy. It's my favorite agent right now. JR
was the highest paid cornerback ever. And I'd say if you ask most people to say, hey, who are the top 5 corners in the league? Nobody would mention Denzel Ward. Nope. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying his name wouldn't come up. So
yeah, that's an accomplishment by Tory Danny to get that.
Right.
Trading Deebo is a Bill Belichick move. And though it doesn't feel good today, it's the best move to make. Trey Area will make others look elite. Yeah, it's a Bill Belichick move from like 10, 15 years ago when the cap was half of what it is now. Teams that win the Super Bowl now keep their stars. I'm just saying.
Also, we don't know what Trey Lance is going to be. So, I mean, that, I love the thoughts and upside of what he can potentially be, but we just don't know to say, oh, he's going to make everybody else look elite.
And, like, what superstars did Bill Belichick really get rid of in their prime? Richard Seymour and Chandler Jones, 2 defensive linemen. He didn't get rid of Rob Gronkowski. I mean, he didn't get rid of weapons.
His thing is, though, and again, we're talking about superstars, but I think if you were just say good players that the Patriots have had, he does get rid of them a year too soon as opposed to a year too late.
Fair. Sports Talk says Samuel Sweat first. Hold on. Samuel Sweat first for Deebo, a third. Samuel played running. What? You got that?
No.
Sports Talk, I tried, but I don't understand. Sorry. Neither did Croc. The Niners will not trade Deebo, all caps. Okay. Derek Blaney says, as a Jets fan, I can tell you Joe Douglas isn't giving a first for Deebo. He just had Jamal Adams doing Twitter stunts like Deebo. No way he's trading assets plus Blake breaking the bank to give a new contract. I would think that the more likely team. How about this? Kansas City. They have 2 first-round picks, 29 and 30.
Yeah, but, they didn't want to pay Tyreek Hill what the open market was for a receiver after the Adams thing. They're willing to pay him, but now once Adams got paid, it was like, damn, we can't pay you that. Yeah, so they have to trade him. So are they going to turn around and give Deebo that same type of money?
Maybe not.
And Deebo, and people will say, oh, well, Deebo's younger. He's not that much younger. He's like 22 months younger.
That's true. Less than 2 years. Tehran says, I watched Deebo highlight tape and got sad. I'm so sorry. That's hilarious. Jason says, what's your thoughts on what Jimmy said about Deebo? What Jimmy say about Deebo?
I haven't even heard Jimmy talk ever.
Yeah, he's in Hooters right now. He's chilling, man. I don't think he's. Yeah. Let me know what he said. Tell me, Jason. David says, "Hi, Deebo. I know you're watching." Hey, Deebo. Andrew says, is it really fair to throw a tantrum if they don't want to pay you like a seasoned vet before the rookie contract is even up, particularly after missing an entire year? What do you think?
It's business.
It's business.
So from the business standpoint, like obviously, like I mean, from the fan perspective and all that, like yeah, you could pull that, look at it from that side. But if I'm Deebo Samuel, I'm looking at the side from, hey, I was 1,800-yard player, and I was your best weapon on offense, and I carried this team. So whatever, like I need what the market is, and I'm up for a contract coming up.
Also, I don't think he's going rogue here and doing things that his agent isn't telling him to do. I think his agent's saying, let's get you the hell out of San Francisco. That's how we're going to do it. I mean, when Jimmy Garoppolo had his shoulder surgery, everyone was like, well, Jimmy didn't think of that. That was Don Yee. And Don Yee's so smart. Like, you really think Deebo's over there? This is Torrey Dan. He's really good. This is what they want to do. This is Torrey's plan. Just saying. So, I don't know. Thanks, Andrew. Last topic. Give me an honest assessment of this offseason so far. Has it been a good offseason for the 49ers or a bad offseason for the 49ers?
The terrible offseason for the 49ers. One, you still have a lot of question marks surrounding the quarterback position. You tried to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, it didn't work out. The injury thing, whole thing backfired. You had to hold on to him longer. And now you have a disgruntled player in Deebo Samuel who's openly requesting the trade. I mean, those are the two most important things that offseason that you had to take care of. And, and obviously you got Bosa coming up as well, but you kind of dropped the ball on both of those things.
Yeah, and the Niners, let's start with the Jimmy thing. It cost them their offseason. They got Travarius Ward and some special teamers. They let us know that was not plan A. That plan A was to get rid of Jimmy and get more stuff, and they couldn't do it. So that's part of it, but just how they misjudged the market. They thought they were going to get 2 2s for Jimmy Garoppolo and got nothing. Because what happened was the market was flooded with more quarterbacks than they expected. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, all these guys, Matt Ryan. And so really the value of Jimmy probably went down to a third, and they didn't take it. Now it's nothing because they waited too long. So that's the first mess up. And then with Deebo, they didn't anticipate what the wide receiver market would be. They're thinking, we're going to take care of Deebo. We'll give him something nice, maybe $19 million a year. And then Christian Kirk gets $18 million, and the Niners don't react. And what they do is they insult Deebo. So really, they thought they were going to trade Jimmy for two seconds. They're going to trade Deebo for 2 seconds, maybe a first, and that's going to be the worst offseason ever. Yep, pretty bad.
Yep.
Sorry. So, John Lynch, you got some time to fix it, man, but you're having a bad offseason, and everyone agrees. So you got to change the narrative here, man, and you can't do it in your press conference. You got to do it with some moves. Getting rid of Jimmy would help. If you did that tomorrow, people will be happy. What do you think's going to happen? Do you think they're going to pay Carolina to take Jimmy off their hands? Basically say, look, we will pay.
Yeah, we'll take $10 million. We'll pay $10 million.
Quarters of it. Yeah. Just give us your best, your best pick next year, please.
Yeah.
Is that what they're going to do? Are they going to pay $18 million for a conditional third that could be a second? Probably. If I were Carolina, I would just trade for Kyler, though. I'm saying. Matt Rule.
I wouldn't trade for him either, though, because I just feel like that's a headache. As talented as he is, I think he's extremely talented, and I like him away from the NFC West. But headache.
Would you rather have the headache that comes with Kyler Murray or Jimmy and his leadership?
To be honest,
is on the line, and those are your options. I got to win this year.
Jimmy and his leadership, and that's crazy. I know that's wild. Because I would love to, but just kind of knowing that, everything that they say about Kyler Murray, not having the leadership, not going back on the field, mentality. He's so awkward to me. Where it's I'd rather go out there with Jimmy 5-yard throwing someone where I don't know what's going through this kid's head half the time.
Fair enough. My question with Kyler Murray is, do you love football? A lot of these quarterbacks, I'm not sure if they do. I like the thing with Josh Rosen. I was so intrigued by him last year. I'm like, man, first round pick, 5-star recruit, finally in a good situation. If you love football, it should come out. And I think what happens is probably doesn't love football. He's probably been on this track of being an NFL player since he was 14. And he's like, all right, I'll do it. I'll make some money, but then I'll eventually get to do what I want to do. Anyway, I don't know. Kyler just strikes me as someone who, I don't know, maybe he wants to play baseball now. Maybe he's just wants to make a lot of money.
He is the far better athlete. I think he is a better quarterback, but I don't want to have to deal with the headache of that, especially after you pay him. So I got people in the chat. I see Jimmy over Kyler, that's crazy. And it is crazy. It's insane. I agree. But until you have to coach, like my son ain't going nowhere. He's a headache. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to deal with that every day and have to wonder where somebody's at, where are in their headspace. Like, you don't want to have to deal with that.
Plus, Kyler gets hurt too. Kyler gets hurt every season.
Nah.
Gammon says Grant cyberbullying led to Deebo seeking trade. No. I cyberbullied Mike McGlinchey and Jimmy Garoppolo. I only praise Deebo Samuel. I'm sorry, Mike and Jimmy. I did do a little bit of cyberbullying on you guys, but it comes with the territory. The Amelia Sports Report says SF the new Detroit? Star players trying to escape. My question is this. I don't know, the Amelia Sports Report, but if Deebo leaves, what's Trent Williams going to say? Because didn't he say last year he only wanted to be on a contender and he didn't want to sign a rebuilding team? What if Deebo leaves?
Hey, at least you got paid, Trent.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Lawless Light says the fact that we don't know what Trey is going to be is the main reason we need to keep Deebo. Just look at how Deebo made Jimmy look. I mean, come on.
I
agree. That's why they should have made Deebo feel appreciated a long time ago. The Jedi said Deebo, you know what Balky would have done? Balky would have extended Deebo. You can't. You have to wait till the end of the season, right? The sooner the better. Balky always wanted to extend guy a little bit early, not a little bit late, because you get a discount if you do it early, but they couldn't. Deebo to Jets. SF gets 10. No. 35. No. 38. No. 61. No. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. It's too much. It's not going to happen.
But if that did happen, that would be awesome.
That'd be great. I saw Rich Eisen saying the Jets should trade number 10 to the Niners. We're using the Niners payroll. What is that, Rich? Come on.
I agree with Rich Eisen.
Yeah, you should do it. You should do it, Jets. I think you should. Deebo just posted on his IG story. Dang. Oh, I'm not on Instagram. Hold on. Let's see what he says. Deebo.
It's about Adam Schefter.
Samuel. Oh, is it? Instagram. Story. I can't click on that. I'm basically a boomer when it comes to Instagram. I don't understand how it works. If you want to find out, that's great. Sorry. I don't know. The Jedi says Jimmy sabotaged his trade value, Grant. Just saying. No, Don Yee did that. Little Rumble 24 says if we trade Deebo before Jimmy, I'm becoming a Rams fan. Yeah, that's right, John Lynch. Ali Moore Powell says Deebo has to strike a deal now. With Lance starting, who knows what this season will amount to? What will his value be if he has a bad season without a contract in place? Okay, I feel you, man. What'd you learn?
He deleted it already, so I don't know. Or he blocked me from his Instagram story, which I doubt he did that. So
man, Deebo is so great. I love it, man.
He posted something and deleted it.
Ronnie Johnson says, Grant, what about Deebo injury history? It's something to consider.
If I'm the 49ers, I bring that up. If I'm Deebo Samuel, I was an 1,800-yard player.
Yeah.
And carried your offense.
I mean, the Niners didn't hold the injury history against Jimmy. The Niners didn't hold the injury history against D Ford. They didn't hold an injury history against Nick Bosa.
They're not going to hold it against Bosa. Yeah.
So why Deebo? Trade Deebo 61 to the Jags for number 1 and Chenault. Number 1. I don't think it's going to happen, but I like it. Anyway, we're coming up on an hour. That's our show. Thanks for watching. I'm sure in 2 hours, Deebo will tweet something and then delete it. We'll have to talk about it. But until then, you're caught up on the latest Deebo drama. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone. You do anything else today? I like to let people plug the rest of their schedule if they.
Oh no, just tune into find my Twitter at Eric_Crocker. YouTube channel, just type in Eric Crocker. I should pop up and subscribe.
Cool. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you later.